All right, everyone, happy Friday. So I'm Dee Willman. I'm the video and broadcast producer, and we're going to talk a little bit about an overview of pre-production, a lot of budgeting. So you're going to see about 3 slides on budgeting. So numbers are fun for half of us. The rest of us, bear with me. All right, so pre-production is a very critical phrase in our creative process, and it sets the stage for a successful execution of a campaign. It involves creative planning, careful planning, meticulous organization, and seamless coordination among our various teams. So our friend Martin Scorsese has stated that cinema is a matter of what's in the frame and what's out. And this can be taken philosophically as though cinema is both the final product that we see on screen, but also everything that occurs off screen that facilitates the production, which includes our labor and creativity. And without a doubt, in any Martin Scorsese movie, you can see the best work both on screen and, because of a lot of preparation, has been gone into its pre-production. So here's a pre-light day, which is a part of our pre-production. It's a day where you set up your equipment, you test everything, and you make sure that you're prepared for your actual day of production. And also, pre-production is also known as that work before the work. So this is definitely a day of work before the big work. It lays the foundation to ensure that your project is planned, organized, and it sets the tone for your final product. So by taking the time to plan and prepare during your pre-production, your team can create a successful project that meets the objective and stays within your budget. So when you're assembling a puzzle, you first turn over all of your pieces to categorize what colors and shapes that you have to work with. You lay out your original art for reference, and then you start to identify what pieces can fit with other pieces in the categories that you created while you're looking at your reference image. And piece by piece, you build your puzzle. It can take time if building it alone, but it can move much faster and be a little bit more productive when you add others. So pre-production is very similar. You stay true to the art, you use the resources you've been provided, and when you include others, it's always more fun and more productive. So one of the initial steps in pre-production is always defining your project scope. Here I have an example of a statement of work that we have created with Echo Shoes. All projects start with setting that expectation via your scope of work. It involves thoroughly understanding the client's needs, the video goals, and your target audience. Then defining what is to be developed. For this instance, we defined 8 videos and deliverables and for how much. By having a clear understanding of these factors, we can align our creative vision and our strategy with our client's expectations, which leads to a more effective campaign. So this is the phase where your ideas start to be transformed into concrete plans, where your dreams take shape and become a tangible reality. Pre-production immediately follows that development stage where the script or the concept is in a semi-final stage or is kind of locked. Every project is different, but this order can apply to any type of production, like short films, music video, spots, feature films, and even TikToks. So here you'll see that you'll collect your teams, you'll build your schedule and your budget, you'll refine your creative, refine your budget some more, refine your schedule some more, set your resources and equipment, hire your talent, do your final prep, maybe a rehearsal, and then end with your pre-production meeting. So having the right team members enhances your efficiency and productivity during your pre-production phase. Pre-production requires collaboration among various team members, including your creative directors, your copywriters, your art directors, your account managers, your project managers, your media, your production crews, and many more, depending on the specific type of your project. And each member brings a unique set of skills and expertise to the table, and it's crucial to ensure that everyone is on that same page, working towards that unified vision, because it truly does take a village. Effective collaboration and clear communication among your team members leads to that streamlined workflow, timely decision-making, effective problem-solving, and establishing a clear line of communication among your team members is super crucial. Regular meetings, status updates, internal reviews, and shared project management tools, like we use with Monday, help streamline the process, ensuring that everyone is aware of the project's progress and any changes or challenges that normally do arise. So budgeting for your campaign involves very careful planning and allocation of resources to ensure success and, most importantly, less stress. So here I have an estimated budget for Breeders' Cup. I'm going to loop. That shows a cost breakdown for agency time and out-of-pockets based on provided information. You can't really see numbers, but that doesn't really matter. Just need you to see the overall process. So first, you're going to want to consult with your team, most likely your project manager and your account manager, to estimate your costs associated with each task for both your out-of-pockets and your agency time. So you're going to want to consider all factors like your talent fees, your usage, your casting services, your equipment rental, your travel expenses, your permits for locations and insurance, trafficking costs, music licensing, mixing and mastering, color correction, ad IDs, hard drives, and any other relevant costs that pertain to the particular project. Once you have estimated costs for each task, allocate your available resources accordingly, such as your agency time. If you have any allocated budget for time, break it down in your estimates so that you can know how many hours each member can and should spend for your concepting, for your writing, your editing, your animation, location scouting, all the fun things that go along with it. So here I have an example of a budget with an a la carte menu for adding options if your client wants to cast more talent, add more locations, or consider different directors outside of their originally allotted budget. So in estimating your costs, if they exceed your budget, you want to prioritize your tasks based on their importance to the campaign objectives, such as knowing that you need talent for on-camera's roles, but consider that talent can be cheaper if they're not speaking, or you're not featuring their full faces, or just their mouths, like we did with the Delta Dental Express Your Health campaign, or if you're utilizing agency staff as talent rather than casting. Consider making those trade-offs by reducing costs in certain areas, like collaborating with your creative team to concept with one location in mind for 3 videos, rather than adding multiple set changes that could add days and add more cost. So when you collaborate with your agency, you can find creative solutions and alternatives. You're going to want to develop a budget plan that includes all the estimated costs for each task, as well as contingency funds for always the unexpected expenses. So keep track of that budget and make adjustments as necessary. And then you'll present your budget plan to the relevant members for review and approval. Ensure that everyone involved understands the budget breakdown and that the expected outcomes during pre-production phase. Budgeting is definitely a collaboration, and the more brains in the budget, the better. So here I have a tracking sheet for all of the projects that content team works on. I review and I monitor these budgets often, tracking as projects progress or they wrap up. You'll continuously monitor and track your expenses during the pre-production phase, and then you'll continue to refine. You'll maintain your clear communication with your creatives and your account team to stay updated on any cost changes or unforeseen expenses, like changes in music type and licensing, your ad ID cost increases, addition of media plans, such as adding an ad at home that includes your full faces and not just the mouths, so you can go back, renegotiate your rates with your talent and keep your licensing fair and updated. After the pre-production phase, you're going to want to review that budget and assess how well it aligned with the actual expenses. Identify any areas of improvement for your future campaigns and document your lessons learned. There are always areas for improvement and for learning. And this is what adds value to our teams when we find areas for improvement and we embrace them. Remember that budgeting is an iterative process and adjustments need to be made as the campaign progresses. Effective communication, collaboration, and flexibility are key in successful managing of your budget in pre-production. So your timelines help streamline that whole production process and post, and it helps improve your collaboration and contribute to the successful and timely campaign launch. So here I have a timeline that includes all of the phases of production, pre-production, post-production for client transparency and tracking progress. Timelines help with organizing tasks and setting expectations with your team members, making them aware of their responsibilities and deadlines and when to show up to provide their talent or information. This promotes that efficiency and reduces the risk of delays and confusion, such as requesting casting specs from your creative team, setting a due date so that you can allow time for your casting agency to collect the best talent with those specs, to have time for your team to review all the options and make selects of those casting options. Then this allows time for your client to review the few selects in a given time frame, which can allow time to inform your talent, their cast, and then schedule your rehearsals. Each of these steps takes a certain amount of time, and in order to retain your quality, scheduling each step with a deadline provides structure to be creative and cast talent on time while including everyone equally in the process. Timelines also can assist your budget when managing them effectively. So by outlining the different stages and their respective durations, it becomes easier to allocate your time, which is also your money. Timelines provide a visual representation of the progress, and they enable better coordination among all of your team members. They also establish these clear deadlines for each phase of the production. It ensures all the deliverables are completed on time and in the correct sequence, like my casting example. Meeting your deadlines is crucial for launching your campaign as scheduled and maximizing their impact, as our media team can definitely tell you. Timelines can also help identify potential bottlenecks or risks in the production process, like knowing you'll need to include time for captioning or file conforming in the very end for post. Gives you ample days for that internal and client review. So by visualizing the entire workflow, it becomes easier to spot those potential issues and address them proactively. They also allow for contingency planning, like planning for rain days. Timelines also serve as a valuable tool for communicating with your client. They provide a very transparent overview of the project's progress, allowing clients to stay informed about milestones, deliverables, and their reviews. Also, estimated completion dates. This effective communication builds that trust and ensures that clients are involved throughout the whole process. Location scouting involves identifying suitable locations for filming, such as studios, outdoor locations, or public spaces. The right location can enhance the storytelling aspect, capturing the essence of the brand and resonate with the target audience, like how we approached our Brockton project, where we identified and filmed at special locations that highlighted the spirit of Brockton. It requires that meticulous research, site visits, negotiation for your rate and your date, your times, and to find the perfect backdrop that aligns with your creative concept and budget. So here I have a deck that we created for Echo's fall production to identify which shoe would work with which location in the woods in Shirley, Massachusetts. The right location can set the tone, the mood, and the atmosphere for the project. It contributes to the visual storytelling by providing a backdrop that enhances the narrative. Choosing the right location can add authenticity and realism to the project, whether it's a historical period piece or a contemporary story. Finding your location that accurately reflects the intended time period, cultural setting, or social contents is crucial in creating that believable world. Locations need to fulfill specific practical requirements as well. So for example, a film may require specific architectural features or landscapes, or access to certain facilities like bathrooms or makeup trailers. Bathrooms, always a necessity, should be the first thing you consider when looking at your location. Scouting helps ensure that those chosen locations meet the practical needs and provide the necessary infrastructure, like shade from the sun. Logically, factors such as accessibility, if you're filming in the woods. So how does your crew move around many miles of a swamp with lots of heavy gear? You gain and pay for permission from the trustees to use the trails with a golf cart. Parking. Everyone has a car. Can they park for free? Power supply for your camera, your battery charging, and lighting need to be assessed during your scout. It also helps to first identify locations that meet the creative vision while also staying within your budget. So like, do you need to rent a generator to run lights? Or can you budget afford it? Or can you access power on site for your lights? Do you want to use natural lights with small lights to support your free natural light? Or do you need to recreate the sun with a big, heavy, expensive, powerful light? All of these variables will range in cost. Ensuring that the safety of the casting crew is the most important part of your process. So you want to scout and allow your production team to identify any potential hazards or risks with the location, like a heavily trafficked road. You'll want to avoid the cars, or snakes in the wood, sunburns because there's no shade, or a hornet's nest near your base camp. I can prepare for the correct area to stage everything per location based on the risk factors in the scout. And then exploring different locations can inspire your creative team and open up possibilities for storytelling. Sometimes an unexpected location can spark some fresh ideas and contribute to the overall creative process, like finding a very cool covered area as a backup for an unexpected rain during the middle of your shoot in the woods. Equipment and resource allocation allow you to determine the costs associated with equipment rentals, hiring your vendors, securing your locations, and acquiring any extra props or costumes. So this is our equipment setup for Delta Dental. showing the allocation where we were able to film stills and our moving images all in one set in one day. Allocating our equipment and resources helps to create a detailed production schedule, determining when and where specific equipment or resources will be needed, like when to have your photographer to show up on set or how long your batteries will last. The allocation of suitable equipment and resources is crucial for maintaining that desired quality in your final product. Different projects may require specific type of equipment, such as a drone or sound equipment if there are dialogue, lighting your gear that can be replicated, or bringing lighting gear that can replicate a lightning storm, or specialized props like a car for a driving PSA. It plays a significant role in ensuring safety of your cast and crew as well. So you want to allocate resources for safety measures such as first aid kits, fire extinguishers, or hiring safety personnel if needed. So this demonstrates a commitment to maintaining a secure working environment. By having a clear plan for resource allocation, everyone involved in the project knows what is required, when it is needed, and who is responsible for each task. A grip and electric team knows that they're responsible for lighting, grip support to get that lighting in place, and electric like powering monitors for your client reviews, and generators for filming in the woods when power would not normally be available. Palette casting specs, also known as casting breakdowns, are specifications that provide detailed information about your desired characteristic, skills, attributes of the character or performer sought for a particular project. So casting specs will normally come from your creative team, either from a copywriter or a director. They'll provide your role clarity. They outline the age, the gender, the ethnicity, the physical appearance, or any other pertinent details about your character. They aid targeted auditions, saving you time and resources. Casting specs also help maintain that authenticity and accuracy in portraying your character. Like if a character has a specific attribute, such as a unique accent or a specific skill, like playing a musical instrument or being able to take out their teeth. Casting breakdowns play a vital role in promoting that diversity and inclusion in the industry. So by specifying a desired ethnicity, a background, or underrepresented group for a certain role, casting specs encourage inclusivity, and they help address the issue of limited representation. They also serve as that communication tool between your casting director, your agency, and your client. They ensure that everyone involved has a clear understanding of the character requirements, and they can provide input or feedback during that casting process. So here I have an example of a casting video that we put together of two actors to test if they had good chemistry and pacing during our casting process. So our talent rates, or the rates at which our actors or our performers are compensated for their work, are important considerations in your casting process. They play a significant role in determining that overall budget because most of the time they are one of the largest items on your budget. Casting directors and producers need to assess the financial feasibility of hiring specific actors based on these rates. So talent rates also reflect the market value of your actor or performer. So more established and renowned artists often command higher rates due to their track record, popularity, and demand. Like hiring Danny DeVito, probably really expensive. Your talent rates serve as a starting point for that negotiation as well with your casting director and your producer. These negotiations can involve various factors, such as the scope of the role. Are they speaking? Are they non-speaking roles? The length of the project, how many days on set will your characters be, and the overall production budget. It's important to note that the talent rates can vary significantly based on factors such as the medium of the project, film, television, theater, radio, social, email, the scale of the project. Is it a national spot? Is it a local spot? Is it on an owned website? And then the talent's experience and popularity. And then always the union affiliation. And then you have your pre-production meeting, where it's an opportunity for everyone involved to sit down and talk about the filming and production. Use this time to refine your idea, manage all the expectations, and get everyone on the same page so that everything goes smoothly on the day of filming. Here I have a deck for Delta Dental that we presented in a pre-production meeting with our client to present them all the details for the day of filming. What you want to happen when you see the final product is something that you should discuss with everyone during this meeting. Make sure that everyone involved is clear on exactly on what we all want to hope to achieve. Be explicit so that everyone understands their roles and responsibility. Going through each role will allow you to clearly communicate what is expected of each person and will help you recognize if there's any tasks that aren't being taken care of and then continue to delegate. You want to go through every shot, including how it will be set up, where the lights will be, and what props or people will be included in the shot. Leave nothing to chance. No details too small. Is there a particular entrance at the location that people should be using? What time should everyone arrive? Make sure everyone has every piece of information they need to be as efficient as possible on the day. Don't assume anything. And your time is your money. Pre-pro is your opportunity for everyone to speak their mind and be clear on all the details so that you don't waste your time debating the creative concepts with an entire crew waiting on you on the day of your shoot. So when it comes to pre-production meeting, there's no such thing as too much detail. Running that successful pre-pro gives you a chance to avoid any potential headache from the outset. Get it right, and you can make sure that nothing gets in the way of the creative execution on the day. Pre-production is a vital and exciting phase that paves the way for the realization of creative visions. It's the accumulation of creative planning, artistic choices, and logistical consideration that shape the trajectory of your entire project. Without a solid foundation in pre-production, the challenges faced during your production and post-production can become overwhelming and costly. And that's it. Anyone have any movies that they feel like should have used a little bit more pre-production to be successful?
Dee, this was so good. I think like as account people, like we're a little bit closer to this than some others, but I still didn't realize like how much goes in to, even if it's just a 30-second spot, right? Like it's not a movie. But thank you for bringing us through this, because it was really interesting to sit down and be like, oh yeah, I would have never thought about like the entrance or like a beehive in the woods. So
Yeah, they
I thought it was
happen.
really interesting. So thank you and good job.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Dee, this was so awesome, so thorough. And to Lizzie's point, while we're closer on the account side, for all of those who are on this call who aren't as close to this, I can't even imagine how helpful this was for you to paint such a great picture of all that it takes to go into this and why it's so important to have the right amount of time to plan for all of these details. So thank you so much. I know you put a lot of work into this. It's very clear.
All right, anybody have questions? None. You all know everything and you're ready to make your own pre-production.
I got one for you, Dee. Dee,
Oh,
what's
what's
been your favorite project to pre-pro?
Ooh. So they're always really stressful when I'm in them. So I never see how fun they are until afterward. I'd say Echo was a lot of fun in the summertime because we were able to go out and see some really different locations. It was such a challenge during the time because there were so many resources in our location that did not exist that we had to bring into the process. So I'd say like day of production after all of pre-pro and planning were done, it was really neat to see what a Herculean effort we all did, getting some trailers in the wood, getting a ton of golf carts in the woods, and then avoiding the hornets' nests that were out and about everywhere. So it was interesting. Delta Dental was a lot of fun too, where we had to be really creative about our faces and not showing full faces and or teeth. It was really weird casting that one. I'm sure Kevin can tell you a little bit about that, but it was a lot of fun.
I have a question for you, Dee, but also for Kyle and Jimmy. Like, what is something that you planned for that just ended up taking a turn? And how did you, this is such a broad question, but how did you guys problem solve around it? Because part of what you guys do, you're always putting your heads together and you're always problem solving. And when you're usually in the throes of solving a problem, you have no time. So I know I just threw like such a broad question. So it's okay if you don't have anything that just comes top of mind.
You definitely want to huddle and collaborate. So I'd say that the first thing you need to do is just talk to your team and put all the information on the table. As I've mentioned, the more brains, the better. But from Jimmy and Kyle's perspective, it's different as editors. So I'm actually really interested in hearing their perspective.
I have an interesting example, which was when during the Echo shoot we shot for the winter 2020 campaign. It's like we did in the winter, but it was for their summer line. We had a bunch of models that we were using, and we had to COVID test everybody for the studio. and one of our models tested positive for COVID that morning, and she was supposed to be the first model on our shoot. So yeah, I mean, so essentially like we all, huddled together, and we switched on our schedule. So that way we were shooting different parts of the line in the morning and rushed other models in. And so we then had to shoot that part of it the next day, but it was almost a disaster, but we were able to get a new model. But COVID definitely added a bunch of production craziness,
Gosh, it
some of
did.
which is still with us.
Caroline, this is not related to a video production, but we had a photo shoot for Easter, and I think it was literally on Caroline's like first or second day at CTP, and our model had COVID, and we're like, "Hey, Caroline, do you want to model for us?" And so she
Good times. A call
We
from
had a
Kathy at like
couple.
7:30 a.m. So
Get
We had
your
a
ass into
couple.
work.
Caroline's was sick, and there was another one that was sick, and that's why we called my brother. We had like a couple COVID people that day. It's a
yeah.
I
mess.
know, but especially the production, gosh, for a couple of years, it was just so challenging to figure out ways to get it all done. So all of you guys, hats off to all of you guys, because I know how much stuff that you guys actually did do during COVID, with all those protocols, which crazy stuff.
Yeah, it
think
seems like it
it's-
always comes down to talent. I mean, COVID aside, there's always things that happen, especially when you cast kids and dogs, like something always goes haywire. So that's where the preparedness and, having a good producer that's looking out for those kind of things, and having a contingency plan really helps. I can think of almost every production I've been on the last 5 years that talent has gone sideways on us.
Just to add to that too, like, I mean, Jim kind of like nailed an example, like specifically, but I think of all the sets that I've been a part of in the last, like, I don't know, 7 years of my career, like, honestly, like being like on a good team and like just checking in on people like throughout the like whole production, even during the pre-production stage, like you have someone like D who just like always has their stuff together, for lack of better words.
Yeah, D.
It like helps that like you're gonna go into battle, as we like to say in the production side, like who got your back, and like like you can rely on anybody, because you always have to adapt. That's like the one thing, like production, like nothing's ever gonna go right. Like you just know that in the back of your mind, like you're gonna be okay. Like you'll be able to handle things that don't go according to plan, or just like end up getting flipped upside down. Like like for instance, a few of you on this call, like you guys went on and shoot for People's, like they had a talent that they like switched in like the 11th hour, like so that stuff like happens all the time. Like it's kind of sad to see it, and then someone's sitting on the sidelines and don't actually get to participate like what they want to do. But just those little things that happen, and just checking in on everybody, just being like, hey, you okay? Like we got this. Like that kind of stuff helps too. So big morale stuff as well.
I love that, Kyle. And you guys seem
Sarah,
like a
Yeah.
close-knit group between Jimmy, Kyle, D. You're always working together, problem solving. I love it.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a business of people. You have to be nice
Yeah.
because you want people to be nice to you. So you got to yes and roll with the punches.
D, how important
Amen.
is food when it comes to the pre-production process?
Food. So this is the part of the budget that everyone always sort of shudders at, but you have to keep your crew fed, and you have to keep them nutritionally fed and fed well. So pizza is not an option on sets. You want to make sure that everyone is hydrated, is caffeinated, has snacks, has breakfast, has lunch. So normally a big portion of my budget definitely goes to our craft services, because you don't want to have a cranky director. You don't want anyone to be hangry, and you want everybody to have, nutrition. So I make sure that we have some greens, make sure that maybe there's some sandwiches, but always make sure that you check your allergies too. You don't ever want to exclude anyone. And then consider all types of, I guess, dietary restrictions in that. So I'd say your food and your talent, some of your bigger portions on your budget.
Cookies, don't forget cookies.
Oh, and cookies. Yeah. You always have to have a sweet. Something
Good
that,
snacks.
yeah, something I do now is I check with my team and I'm like, any requests? And then it's like fruit snacks, which always are gone an hour into set. So
That's
making
so
sure you
funny.
ask people what they need. People,
We all turn
have
into
preferences.
toddlers on set with fruit snacks and juice boxes and cookies.
Well, it is
Kyle-
funny. I will say, it is funny, especially with the larger productions. Obviously, like there's every single detail that you're planning around. But when the client's involved, if there's something that's wrong, like they're gluten-free and there's nothing, like that can make them feel like we have dropped the ball in such a big way when it's one little detail in a sea of like 1,000 of them. So it's literally, you've got to think of every single last thing.
That's where you just talk to people.
Yeah.
You collaborate. I think it's so important just to make sure that everyone is involved, that transparency is important, but all of the input is so valuable.
Yeah.
Kevin, what's your favorite food to have on set? I feel like that was a loaded question.
I mean, I'll eat anything as long as there's food there. Depends on if you get there, when you get there, whatever's left over, you know. First in line and middle in line makes a big difference. Lobster rolls, though. Next time, lobster rolls.
Oh, imagine.
Goodness. We'd have to get sponsorship, which is fine.
Does anyone have any other questions for Miss D?
Well, all right. You're all ready to take on your pre-production world.